Hey guys, in this video I wanted to talk about the limitations we put on ourselves and others, especially in regards to personality type, and also transcending your type and doing things that may not be a stereotypical thing that your type does. Starting off with limitations, I think it's very common for people to put limitations on themselves, not even when it comes to typology, but people will often say, oh, I can't do this because of X, I can't do this because of Y, I can't do this because of Z. I think that's part of the human experience. Others are a little bit more confident naturally, but there are people, and I think everybody has said this about themselves for some reason. You kind of have to realize that a lot of the limitations you put on yourself are not actually limitations. They're actually things that you just don't want to do. And that's where the mindset switch needs to come is, there's some things that you are. So for example, I am a female. I am 25 years old. I can't be a baby anymore. I physically cannot be 2 years old. Maybe I could act like I'm 2 years old, but I physically cannot be 2 years old. As far as my gender goes, I could switch that. And that's a controversial thing, but if I really wanted to be a male, I could switch that. And maybe some people would say differently. But those are kind of, I don't want to say surface level examples because some of those are really huge issues for people. But as far as more mindset limitations, oh, I'm not intelligent, I'm not emotionally intelligent, I'm not funny, I'm not creative, I'm not all of those things, those stir out of a place that is simply just a mindset. And when it comes to limitations that I see for certain types, for example, I've talked about this. I did a video with Calypso from INFJ and INFp Coffee, and we were talking about the differences between INFPs and INFJs, and one of the questions she asked me is there anything that was basically a stereotypical thing that people believe about INFJs. And I don't remember exactly how I worded it, but I know that so many people have this misconception about INFJs and they think, oh, because INFJs are these empathetic intuitives that have this capacity to make connections with an I, but also they have this extroverted feeling side to them. Okay, so those people are altruistic and they can never be successful or ambitious or basically accomplish anything besides being a psychic or a monk, which is just ridiculous, and not everybody holds this opinion. I would say the majority of people that know about typology do not hold this opinion. But it's the same thing as, for example, an ESTP. A lot of people think that, or maybe not a lot, but a high plurality of people, especially getting into typology, they think, oh, ESTPs are the con artists, they're the salespeople, they're the people that are really good at physical things as to do with sports and other physical related activities. These people are not, they can't have intelligent conversations, they're surface level. I think people see this for a lot of sensors, and first of all, that's such a off the mark statement about sensors. Sensors are not that way. Sensors are some of the most intelligent people that I've met personally, and I'm not saying just because you're a sensor or just because you're an intuitive that you're intelligent. I don't think that really comes from that. And again, intelligence can be subjective in a way, and it depends on what intelligence you're looking for. But regardless, those stereotypes about ESTPs, and again, not everybody holds that opinion, those are just not necessarily true. And even if they were true, it doesn't mean that just because they are a good salesperson or they're very good at sports or physical activities doesn't mean that they can't be empathetic at times, and doesn't mean that they can't ever love people or do things that are a little bit out of the norm. It's just like when we look at careers for certain personality types, a lot of times, which I think is actually pretty interesting, and I think there is a lot of merit behind this, is MBTI was kind of, it was grounded in the idea of figuring out what the best job you were, what the best fit for you was as far as a job goes, and how you would interact with others, coworkers, bosses, whatever it is, in the workplace. So it makes sense that there's these, oh, well, if you're an INTP, you would be great at being a scientist, or, oh, ISFJs are great nurses, or ENTJs are entrepreneurs. Now, although cognitively speaking, you may be more aligned with certain types of jobs. For example, for me, I feel like I would do really well with nonprofit work or doing stuff with people, because I do very well with people, and I've always loved being around people. And also, other things, whatever. But those, at the end of the day, you can't limit yourself. You can't say, oh, just because I'm an INFJ, I can never be a mathematician. Oh, just because I'm an ISFP, I could never be like this astrophysicist. It's what I use typology for, and what I think you shouldn't do instead of limiting yourself is looking at the cognitive functions, realizing what personality you truly are, because again, a lot of people mistype, and that's fine. I think it's okay to mistype. So many people mistype. But when you actually are completely honest with yourself, and you look at the cognitive functions, and you see what you need to work on, and you see the leveling degrees that you need to maybe, so I lead with an I probably need to work on this, and this. Certain things like that. And when you do that, you can transcend your type. So for example, I have always been a very creative person, and I've always been very intuitive and good with people. And I've had my parents and people that know me in real life, they say that I have this sort of charm and charisma with people. And I think that's extroverted feeling. I know it is, and often people come to me for advice with the introverted intuition, because I do see things that not everybody recognizes at first. And I'm not saying people don't ever recognize those things, but I tend to recognize them before other people do, typically. When I went to school, instead of doing something like becoming a teacher, and when I say this is university, in the US we use the word school a lot, and I know in other countries they're like, school is for primary school or whatever. I don't know what you guys think, but when I chose my major, I chose business because my parents wanted me to, but what I really chose was international affairs. The reason why I chose that is when I got into college, and I've talked about this before, I did simulation teams like Model United Nations, Model Arab League, Model European Union, which are simulating those actual organizations. And that really pushed myself and expanded my knowledge in many ways to become this more to become comfortable speaking in front of people, and working on my diplomacy skills, which that was more of a natural thing. Also the writing skills, that was more of a natural thing. But being able to talk about things that I had no idea about when I first started, and I had to build up my competence and confidence in those areas. And that's the thing, you have to go through the competence-confidence loop. And when you build up competence, so if you start understanding something, like, for example, if I wanted to learn more about quantum mechanics and quantum physics, which I'm very interested in, it's studying it and putting yourself into that. And some people, it may come more naturally to them. Like for me, I pick up on things pretty easily because I have introverted intuition and I can pick up on patterns. But there's other things that are a little bit more challenging for me. But whatever that looks like for you, it's diving into those things and becoming more competent at them. And when you become more competent at something, for example, for me, when it came to public speaking, I was the worst public speaker. I would shake and cry in front of people if I had to give a speech in high school or before. And it was a challenge. I had to work all the time at it. But then, it didn't happen the first year, but the second year, I won the top award in both of the conferences that I went to. And that had a lot to do with public speaking and the other stuff. But I eventually built up that competence and confidence, and then I ended up going into leadership in those things. I ended up being a country chair for Model UN, and then I ended up leaving Model UN at my university, but I went off and I actually led committees. I was the director or assistant director at conferences abroad, and I also became the assistant captain at first for Model European Union at my university, but then eventually the next year I became captain of Model European Union. And this isn't me trying to say, oh, look at me, I'm great. I really could care less, how you guys think of me in that extent. But this is me giving a real world example of transcending my type. Because a lot of people, and I even had people that would want to join Model UN because they wanted to go on these trips, but then they realized all the work that was involved, and they would be like, oh, I'm not a public speaker. Oh, I don't know anything about politics. Oh, I don't know this or that. You learn those things. It's the same thing as whatever you're wanting to do. So when you stop putting those limitations on yourself, and you start transcending your type, whether you even study personality or not, even if it's someone that doesn't know anything about personality, and they know that they have these certain strengths and weaknesses, working on those things, and maybe you're not going to be as great as other people, but putting in work will really show results. I don't really care about talent, I care about work. I care about putting in the time, because I may have to work 50 times as hard as the other person, but I'm going to put in that work to be better. And I think that's what everybody should do with their whoever, whatever they're trying to do in life. Just some silly examples of how I personally transcend my type, and maybe you guys do the same thing, is I'm typically the first person on the dance floor. And I think this has to do a lot with extroverted feeling, but when I go out in public, especially if I'm around, people I know and friends, or even when I'm not really around those people, I will be the first person to go out there. I will dance, I will do some really silly moves, because I want other people to get out there and have a good time. I don't really care what other people think about me. I know that people probably judge me and they're like, who's this little white girl going out and dancing? But I eventually start dancing better once more people come around, because I'm like, okay, now I don't have to be as exaggerated with my movements. But that's something that I personally like to do, and it pushes me. It's not something that necessarily comes naturally. The extroverted feeling does, and maybe the extroverted sensing, even though I'm not great at it. But I do it because I know that it betters myself in some way, and I know that that's really silly. And maybe you guys have some silly things that you do. Like, maybe your silly thing is you don't typically talk to people in a grocery store when you need to figure out where an item is, but you've pushed yourself to do that because you realize, hey, I could be a little bit more efficient if I just talk to this person, or maybe I could get this item quicker. Well, that's efficient. Anyways. Or maybe it's just for a social interaction. This car is extremely hot, and I just noticed that. I'm gonna turn don't you guys like my hair? Sorry, my hair looks crazy. I need to grow these bangs out. Anyways. But yeah, so it's like, there's so many ways you can transcend your type. There's so many ways you can stop with those limitations, because those limitations are not serving you. They're not going to serve you with your goals. And it's just going to give you this victim mentality, and you don't want to be in the victim mindset. You want to be a creator. And this does not mean being creative, but I think everybody can be creative. This means going out there and actually doing shit. Putting yourself out there. Putting that shit out there. I really love the reference that Sarah Douglas made about making merch that says "put that shirt out there." That's so funny. Anyways, I really appreciate you guys, and I really couldn't do this without you. As you may have seen, I made a community post about this, but I don't know if everybody saw it, and it's okay if you didn't. I'm trying to post more often on there, just as like a little status update, I don't know. Or like I really like to engage with people and see what other people think about things, because I'm always looking on ways to improve my content and what you guys want to see. But this channel is now monetized, which is very interesting. It was under review for over a month, which was also interesting because I did not elect to monetize this channel. It just automatically did. Maybe I did something a long time ago that pushed that through. I'm not sure. I'm not entirely sure, but it's pretty cool. So now that these videos have ads, that's awesome, because I mean, it's not going to be a lot of money, but it will be helpful, and I'll be able to buy like more equipment for YouTube in the future. I mean, I do have a full-time job right now. It would be awesome if this became a job for me, like a potentially a full-time job in the future. That would be so great, because I want to be able to reach out to more people. But I just wanted to update you guys on that. If you guys saw that and you're like, why do you have ads on your videos now? But that's why. And I really appreciate that. I really, really appreciate it. I had to talk to YouTube to even push that through, because they changed the way they do things. But anyways, if you guys want to know more about that, I actually think I want to make a video about that if you're in the same position of wanting to do that. And the reason I'm talking about this right now is I don't really give a shit whether I make money on this or not. It is helpful. It definitely is helpful. You know, I don't make a ton of money at my job, my current job, because it's an entry-level kind of position. And that doesn't really matter. I don't really care that much about money, but I'm trying to respect money more, and I realize that in order to make better things or to reach more people, you know, that kind of comes with the territory. So I hope you guys liked this video. I hope this was helpful for you, and let me know what things that you do, because I didn't say every single thing that I feel like I transcend my type or other people transcend their type. But like, let me know in the comments below what you do to transcend your type. And what are the things that you do or limitations that you put on yourself that are just, you realize now are bullshit, and you really should be more, just try to do more things and create more things that kind of aid that limitation and making it not a limitation but a competency. So I hope you guys are having an incredible day. Again, thank you so much. Couldn't have done this without you, and I really am looking forward to 2019, even though you guys are gonna see me a lot more before 2019. I'm really looking forward to it. And thank you guys for being patient. Thank you for everything. I love you guys. Have a great day. Bye.